And that airdrop changed their life because the salary that they get is like 3 to 4 months. And you realize, holy shit, in Asia, when you get paid in USDT, all of a sudden you have a way to achieve financial freedom.
So you're in Taiwan, brother.
Yes, sir.
Welcome everybody to the Eddie Live podcast. I'm here with Puke Rainbow. What's up, brother?
I'm good, bro. Just landed today.
Yeah.
Obviously, first day in traveling has been hectic.
Okay.
But I'm been like, you know what? We got to do this. I got to come out here, meet you.
I appreciate you.
And see what's the vibe about with, you know, Eddie's place, man.
That's my spot, man. I appreciate it. I got to ask before we start, the name.
Sir.
Where's the name from, man? Puke. Puke Rainbow. There's got to be a story.
Yeah. It's always going to be a story, right?
Of course,
so, you know, how in Web3, people who is in, NFTs, blockchain, crypto, they always have this alter ego, right?
Gotcha,
We do not want ourselves to be doxxed because who knows, down the line, what kind of shit you do.
I know.
So when I came into the space, honestly, my time was, buying NFTs. So I had this friend that say, hey, during the time it was COVID, I was running my own e-commerce brand, right? So we help brands to do a lot of like Facebook ads and stuff like that. But during COVID, obviously it's not doing well because people only buy what they need and not what they want, right?
Yeah.
And so like I was struggling during that moment, and a friend said, hey, this is a whitelist. You don't have to do anything. You just have to download MetaMask.
Okay.
I will send you the ETH. All you got to do is just mint it.
Okay.
And so it was a collection called Doodles.
Okay.
And during the time, Doodles was this hype NFT. I love the color palette so much.
Okay.
And looking at, all of the different NFT trades, there is this most exclusive trade called the Rainbow Puking.
Okay.
And so I just took the name, switch it up, and put Puke Rainbow, and created my first, I would say, Twitter profile based on Puke Rainbow.
Okay.
And the rest is history, bro.
The rest is history, man. Oh, man, that's crazy because I have some puke stories, but they're very different. Yeah.
I would say it turned out to be quite a good name.
Okay,
because I've been, talking to people. Obviously, podcast is my thing.
Sure, yeah.
And, I was just talking to Dan, the last 3 years, I've been talking to about 1,500 people.
Okay.
And no one single people name themselves Puke.
Yeah.
So, if you come to the space and you talk to me and there's only one Puke, it's going to be me. So I feel like the name is good, bro.
That's a good name. Okay. Unique. Salud, yeah. And where are you from originally, man? Tell me a little bit about your beginning.
Yeah, cool. So I'm from Malaysia.
Okay.
If you look at my color, so Malaysia is a
Okay.
little bit of a multiracial country.
Gotcha.
We have Chinese, we have Malay, we have Indian. So my dad is Chinese, my mom is Indian. Actually, they are here in this place.
Yes, yeah.
So
shout
you
out.
could see them as well.
I hope they like the food.
But
yeah.
in Malaysia, if a Chinese marries an Indian, the kid is called a Chindian.
A chin. Oh,
Yes.
That's the first time I've ever heard
Yes.
that. Okay.
So it's called
okay.
Chindian. So you look here, it's a little bit dark. But
Okay.
if you look here, it's Chinese.
Oh, wow. That's
Right?
hilarious.
So that's
okay.
that's why
okay.
we say a Chindian. And so like
Chindian.
growing up, being, I would say, a family of, I'm the youngest guy.
Yep.
And it's always gonna be will you become a doctor? Will you become a lawyer, or will you become an engineer? So obviously I picked engineering.
Sure.
Did 4 years degree, studied mechanical engineering, did it for 2 years, realized that shit, I do not like this.
Gotcha.
And
yeah.
fast forward, I quit the job, went and become I would say a newbie in a startup.
Okay.
Where I learned everything from, from product management, from marketing, from doing Facebook ads, creating ads, working with team, handling, logistic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then 2 years back, I came out and created my own, marketing agency.
Okay.
And then COVID hit. So we were doing pretty well. Our model is more towards like we run the ads, we help brands to scale from 0 to 1 million in sales through Spotify, drop shipping and stuff like that. And after that, we will sell the brand and hop on to the next product.
Okay.
So it was good, but when COVID happened, it's really hard to scale like new products. And then the friend that came in that introduced this, and then, instantly after NFT happened, I sold the old business, went full ahead into the Web3 crypto lifestyle. Yeah.
Okay, so what kind of gave you the idea to switch from Web 2 to Web 3?
I think it's just the idea of, doing something that is more, I would say, future focus.
Okay.
Because like when you do e-commerce so much, you realize that day in, day out is a repeat. and whatever that you do isn't gonna, it's not groundbreaking, right?
Okay.
You know, nothing's new is gonna happen, and it's just you pushing product to a group of people that maybe don't even want it.
Okay.
But because you use a creative way to market the product, they buy it.
Yeah.
And I don't feel good about it, right?
Understand,
But then
sure.
when you come into Web3, you see a lot of people, for example, you know, people, especially in Asia, right?
Yeah.
People in India, people in Philippines, people in Malaysia, you know, how just, you know, by minting an NFT, selling it, or even, you know, becoming an active community member, get this airdrop. And that airdrop changed their life because the salary that they get is like 3 to 4 months. And you realize, holy shit, you know,
Beautiful.
because in Asia, when you get paid in USDT, all of a sudden you have a way to achieve financial freedom.
Beautiful.
And I was like, shit, all right, so this is what I want to do. And when I go onto Twitter, the first thing, like why people ask me why I do Twitter Spaces is because when I go onto Twitter, the first thing, when you click on the first space, the second space, the third space, everyone has an American or Europe accent, but nobody speaks in the Asian accent. And you realize that Asia need a voice to do it. So 3 years ago, I started doing spaces, and the whole idea is like, how can I bring, you know, all of the education that I know from the US, from the Europe, to places like, you know, like India, like Vietnam, like China, that people, because of language barrier, they do not understand it. And then because I able to translate it, they're able to achieve financial freedom. So that's the main goal, actually.
Wow. So you seem to have like a foothold in a lot of different countries.
Yeah,
being a Chindian and also like all the countries you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
So you're the voice for Asia Web 3.
Yeah. So now we have 7 teams across Asia.
Okay.
You know, we have PukeCast Korea, we have China, we have Vietnam, we have Thai. And so like every month I would travel to a different city just, you know, to do events, to meet up with the community, to grow. Like we have like content houses as well. To grow the next wave of KOLs and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, tell me the beginning. You're talking about you spread out all this. Let's take a step back and tell me a little bit about you started, like, you know, in which country did you start? And now, how did you kind of expand? Because you skipped over expanding all over Asia, right? That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't skip that part.
Yeah. Got it. So 3 years ago, I started doing spaces because I realized there's no Asian voice, right?
Yeah.
So first thing I do was, you know, to just invite one brand and then host a space. I would get like maybe 20 to 30 people. That's it.
Okay.
And so like, you know, I do it a daily spaces. So for the last 3 years, I've done about, you know, 650 spaces. The first year itself, I have not skipped any. I do it daily. So every day, 2 hours of spaces.
Wow.
So I would just wake up, open my phone, go on spaces, see what's trending, put in the title, and hope that people actually turn up.
Okay.
And so it did not work out because like it's totally shit, right?
Okay.
And so like, you know, you start to figure out, you know, check out other people and say, hey, you know, how can we improve it better? And so I realized that, you know, during that time, there was this one show called Daily Dose Asia. And it was, Daily Dose. And it was really trending. And so I said, hey, you know, you are doing Daily Dose, but the time is bad for Asian people. Can I come in and do Daily Dose Asia?
Sure.
With a Asian time zone? And the person said yes. So he's one of the founder of Moonbirds during that time. So his name is called Ryan Carson. And I think because of that, a lot of like the traffic that he get and immediately say, hey, you know, there's this Asian space that talks about the same content, but in a better time zone.
Sure.
So do hit on to that. And started getting traction, you know, 40 people show up. Fast forward 3 months, you know, 50 people, 60, 70, 80 people. So I slowly getting that traction.
Yeah, beautiful.
And then, you know, we started out saying, hey, you know, let's use this traction. Let's also create multiple language. So the first one was, you know, Chinese.
Sure.
So we get people to do the same content. Everything is the same, rinse and repeat, but in Mandarin. And we saw that working. So it's just like, you know, using that model, opening in Vietnam, opening in Thailand, opening in Korea and stuff like that. Yeah.
So how are you able to take, like, so you've got all these like content houses, you're doing these live streams, right? How are you able to take that and like monetize that and turn that into the business? Because when you were in Hong Kong, you had a huge, you know, event, right? We actually tried to get in and they're like, you can't get in, it's full. We're like, oh. And then we were actually eating at the place. They told us, hey, at 6:30 you got to get out, and we're just like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. And then Yuri, she's like, oh, sorry, maybe next time. And then we're eating, and she shows up, and we're like, what is going on?
It's the same place,
you stalking us? What's going on? And she's like, no, the event's here. I thought, oh wow, because I was just following around, the locals, right? Yeah. He's like, I got this place. You won't find it unless you're not local, right? Yeah. So and the food was amazing.
Yep.
That place was amazing.
The vibes were amazing.
That place was amazing, right? So all of a sudden, you're doing these events all over. You're traveling, looks like monthly, right, or weekly. I don't know. Yeah. So how were you able to take like your live stream, your podcast, all that stuff, and then like monetize that? That's super interesting because that's what most people cannot do.
Yeah. So I think one thing is that you got to anchor to the brands that you want to work long time with, right?
Okay.
And so in Web3, what for me is very simple. What are some of the brands that I love the most?
Gotcha.
I list it down. So for example, if we want talking about education, we have Open Campus. If you want to talk about gaming, we have Scale Network. If we want to talk about hyper casual, we have Kaya Chain. And so like I note down, these are the brands that I want to work with.
Okay.
And I just go ahead, to say, hey, these are the things that you've been doing for last year. And I see that there's so many things that, we can, if you add us in, we can use it to create content. So one thing people don't realize is that, it's good to, asking people to sponsor for your podcast and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But usually, sponsoring podcasts, everybody asks the same thing. You got to do something, I would say, extra and ordinary, right?
I agree.
And so like our package is not just offline, but online as well. So like on online, we do like these weekly spaces and stuff like that. But offline, just imagine, all the brands are spending tons of money doing in real life events. And after the event, nobody's chopping up the content. After the event, they probably post 4 pictures of the event and they move on to the next.
Yeah.
The main value isn't about what people experience during the event. The main value is how people not attending the event see it's trending on the timeline and
they
realize
want
like,
to go.
Yeah,
I
missed out, right?
Okay.
So my whole proposal is, hey, these are the places that we will be at. If you pay us this amount, we will do the online stuff. But the offline stuff, we will come in. We will shoot content, and then we can chop it out to multiple reels. We could do street interviews. We could do so many more than just whatever that you're doing. So I think like that angle really works.
Okay.
And this year we signed about 7 different ecosystems. So it could be from Ape Chain, Animoca brands, Kaya Chain, Scale Network. So these are all the brands that we're working. And I think the vision aligned is because all of these brands this year, they'd be like, I want to focus in Asia. You guys are going to do so much in Asia. Yeah. We want to have your brand participate in it.
Okay.
But it's not easy, man, because like...
I'm sure,
For example, just talk about Animoca brands, right? I've been doing spaces for them free for 2 years.
Gotcha.
And then only I do my ask.
Okay.
And then Open Campus, which is one of their project, finally said, hey, we want to sign you in. This is the contract. Let's do 1-year contract.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's always going to be, in Web 2, you get paid.
Yes.
And then you start your job. In Web 3, you need to do it for free.
Okay.
People see your value and then they pay you. So it's totally different. You can't bring that same mindset
that's smart.
of that Web 2 come into Web 3. Yeah.
I think that's smart because a lot of people, they don't. First of all, a lot of people don't want to put in the work for free, right? And for like a traditional podcast, people will kind of ask a sponsor, and if they're new, they'll be like, well, they kind of lowball themselves, and then they realize, oh my gosh, there's so much work for this, like $100 US or whatever I'm asking, whatever they ask. Yeah. So that's a smart way, man. I appreciate that. That's huge because a lot of people are not able to monetize the podcast and the live streams and stuff. Yeah. That's awesome, man.
This video has been brought to you by Eddie's Reaper Hot Sauce.
There you go. Speaking of sponsorship, yes, you tried the hot sauce. Tell me about the hot sauce, bro.
All right.
I'm gonna chop this one up.
So, initially, I underestimated. I gotta say, okay. I'd be like, all right, it's Eddie hot sauce, but we're not in the US, so let me try it. So I just put it more. I took like a hand scoop, and I scoop it in. Starting, I feel it's okay, and then I was like, maybe I need more. It's just fine. And then I take one more scoop. That's it. That
was
is the
insane.
last time I took it because
That's
I
awesome,
was sweating.
brother. Yeah.
Dude, you know I'm bald, right? And
Okay, yeah.
instantly my parents was like, dude, your head is sweating. I was like, yeah. I'm dripping wet. But
That's-
it's good. I love
Okay.
the kick.
Good, man.
And
Thank you.
obviously when you eat, tacos and stuff, you add a little bit of this.
Yeah,
it gives you the
yeah.
extra kick. So
The good thing is it's really spicy, so you don't have to add like a ton. You put a few drops in there, and so it's good. Yeah, we've been, the restaurant's been going for a while, 15, 16 years, and the podcast is like 5-6 years, and it's been pretty cool, man. I love that.
Dude, I
love
gotta
it.
say,
Thanks, man.
Friday is packed, bro. It's
Yeah,
packed.
it was nice,
Your,
yeah.
your time, put 8 p.m. you close.
Yes.
But
Oh.
8 p.m. is full.
Yes,
so
yes. No, man, it's crazy because this is the podcast and stuff like that. We usually do it on a different day. So today I just kind of like ripped everything apart, try to put this together. Hopefully it looks and sounds good, right? But yeah, man. You've been doing also radio stuff, right?
Yes.
Like Rug Radio,
Yes.
right? I did a bunch of research on you. So tell me a bit about Rug Radio.
Yeah,
Where did that
so
fit in?
Coming back to the whole concept of Web 2, Web 3.
Yes.
Web 2, you get paid, you do your job.
Yes.
And then Web 3, you have to show your worth.
Sure.
Same thing in Web 2, for example, one engine, and I would say energy drink company versus the next, they will never collab together. For example, Coke and Pepsi.
Coke and Pepsi never.
Will never connect.
Yeah.
But if an energy drink in Web 3 and the other one in Web 3, they can connect together and work together because the whole thing about Web 3 is inclusivity, right?
And a different mindset.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it's about partnership. It's about collaboration. It's
Gotcha.
it's not about me and you versus the world, but it's like me and you collab together to get mind share.
Okay.
Right? From
Okay.
the Web 2.
Beautiful.
And so I started my brand PukeCast, and then we get in touch. I think it's about 1 year ago. We in touch with the folks from Rock Radio and also Decrypt.
Yep,
Right.
okay.
And talking to them, realized that hey, they have so much mind share,
Yeah.
but they want to expand in Asia. So why compete with them? Whereas I can say, hey, let's also take on the brand of Rock Radio Asia. Let's take on the
Okay.
brand of Decrypt Asia
Gotcha.
under our brand called PukeCast. Where
Gotcha.
for example, if your client comes and say, hey, I want Asian market, we can help to handle the activation.
Yeah.
Whereas for our clients that wants, US and Europe, we can pass it back to them.
Okay.
So then it
It's
became
beautiful.
like a
Yeah.
good collaboration
Okay.
of like say, hey, Rock Radio is big, but PukeCast itself, we also handle Rock Radio Asia, Decrypt Asia. So
Okay.
it's been a good, man. I think the partnership we started 2 years ago.
Okay.
Just hang out with the folks during last week during Consensus as
Okay,
well.
okay.
So it's good.
I've been doing a little bit of crypto for a while, and then I
Yeah.
stopped for a little bit, just kind of like passively, DCA and stuff.
Yeah.
And then you get back in, post all the AI stuff, and you're like, whoa, it's like a new world, And so I'm always, I'm pretty close with Dan, and Dan was, we do the podcast and interviews, and he's like, come, let's go. So we went to Consensus, and I got to meet, you. I got to meet a lot of cool people and places. And so what was your opinion of Consensus, or what was your feeling on it?
Yeah, so Consensus is crazy, I would
It's
say.
Hong Kong first time, right?
It's Hong
Yeah.
Kong first time. Like Hong Kong is a place that loves to try out a lot of new things.
Okay.
Last year was the first time for ComplexCon Hong Kong.
Okay.
This year they have Consensus. We hosted 2 events. We co-hosted 4. So
Beautiful.
we partner up with Pudgy Penguins. We did
Nice.
a yacht party. We partner up with OKX to do like a clubbing party.
Wow.
So it's just like, for me, it's more towards like a work thing, right?
Okay.
Going there, make sure the event runs smoothly. Make
yeah.
sure we jam pack everybody that we know
Yeah.
into one place.
Yeah.
And make sure that we shoot a lot of like different types of content.
Of course,
Yeah. So
yeah.
I think usually for me, going to all these conferences is to meet up old friends. Obviously, during the time of doing all the events, meet up new friends like you.
Of course, sure.
And then
Appreciate you.
having a lot of content that we could churn out probably the next 2-3 weeks
Okay.
before we start traveling again and then
Okay.
having a new set of content.
So
Yeah.
that's the cycle. So Consensus, you got like a 2-3 weeks, maybe a month of content. And then, like everybody was like, are you going to Denver? Are you going to Denver? I'm like, well, I don't even know what. I'm a restaurant guy, man. I'm just hanging out with Dan, and it was great. And
Yeah.
so I asked Dan, I'm like, are we going? He's like, no, we're not going to Denver. We're going to go to the next one. I'm like, all right, cool. So, yeah, so
You-
tell
you
me,
should-
so you're going to Denver, or what is this
No,
all about?
So Denver is this way.
Because that's okay. That's this, because
Yeah.
that's not Asia. That's obviously US, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
okay.
we focus more on Asia.
Gotcha.
So like the next one for me will be next week,
you-
going to Vietnam.
Oh, Vietnam.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So we are partnering up with Uniswap.
Oh, nice.
We are doing like this 1 week of content house where we bring 30 to 40 content creator into one house, and then we partner up. We do a lot of like content videos and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a proof of concept thingy. But if it runs smoothly, we want to do it, in Vietnam, in Dubai during Token 2049, and also in Bali during CoinFest.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Dan was like, "Oh, you want to go to Dubai?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." Right?
Honestly, like the next event that you should go is Dubai.
Dubai. Okay.
For me, Consensus was great. We have about, I would say, maybe 300 side events.
Wow. Yeah. I saw that. Yep.
But Dubai will be more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dubai always goes big.
Dubai will be more. Each event will be more flashy.
Okay. It's Dubai.
It's bigger in scale because if you notice, like Dubai is a good spot because Asians, we only need to fly like maybe 4, maximum 6 hours tops.
Gotcha.
Europe, 4-6 hours top. US,
Yeah.
half the journey compared coming to Hong Kong.
Okay.
So like Dubai is a nice spot that you get Asia, you get US, you get Europe, all coming into one place.
Beautiful.
It's Dubai.
How do you decide? Like, I think there's ETH Taipei coming up, right? Like, how can you decide? You can't go to every single thing.
Yeah.
So how are you deciding? Okay, this one, we'll go to this one. This one, maybe not.
Yeah. So for me, it's more towards like what is the country of focus this year.
Okay.
So our country of focus will be Vietnam, will
Gotcha.
be Thailand, will be India and Korea.
Okay.
So this is 4 places that we
That's a
focus
lot.
on. So like as long as there's an event in that particular country, we will
Okay.
show up.
Gotcha.
Whether it's branding, whether it's doing an event and stuff like that. So for me, I'm putting like Taipei not so soon.
Gotcha.
But I usually come Taipei maybe end of the year because like Taipei Blockchain Week feels like half work, half holiday.
Yeah.
Weather is good.
Beautiful.
Good friends, organizer is friends and stuff.
Gotcha.
But in terms of like, getting real users, maybe Taipei, even my country, Malaysia, we have a lot of builders, but not like consumer.
That makes sense. Yeah, because they, like for example, we were the first restaurant to accept crypto as payment. We use a company called PunDX, right, from Singapore. And then the government, after about a year, the government kind of changed some things. And now they're kind of going around. They're fixing it, but it's a bit slow. It's a bit slow here for sure, unfortunately. But we still love it, man. We still love it, yeah. So Taipei Blockchain Week, that was actually the first event for me. And it was awesome, first because it was Taipei. And Dan was like, come. And so we set up all this gear and we did like a long live stream. And that was the first time I saw your logo, the PukeCast logo. And I was like, oh, I got to meet this guy. So we're here. That's
last
really
year,
cool.
Taipei.
Yeah, last year, the Taipei Blockchain Week. Yeah. Because I do some crypto, but I'm mostly like, restaurant guy, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool, man. I love it. And I also think going to Consensus was cool because we were interviewing people. And we were asking, questions, but very different questions. Like, I'm like, how's this guy making money? For example, we go to these places and, they get a booth. They pimp out their booth. They've got all this merch. They've got all this staff, all the gear. And I'm like, hey, can I ask you some questions about your project? And they're like, no, we can't talk about it. And I'm just like, but why do you have a booth? So for me, I'm like, what? You have a booth. You spend all this money on merch. I can take all this free stuff, but I can't ask you a question. And so for me, as like a restaurant guy, I'm like, what's going on here? But then I was like, let's just go to the next one. So he's like, he's seen it all before. So it was cool. It was cool, man. Yeah.
It's always a mixture of like, legit brands without non-legit brands, right? And you go to events, I think like if you do multiple events, and then if you're active on the timeline on like Twitter and stuff, you kind of like have this mindset of like, all right, you see the brand, whether it's legit or not. Like it comes naturally to you, bro.
Like, is there a way, like, I mean, maybe expand on that? Because I asked a few people, I'm like, how can you filter out the brands that are like not legit, that might not be here, next year? And a lot of people couldn't like put it into words, right? Maybe is there some trick or is it just like a lot of people like, well, you just got to try a lot and lose a lot of money. And I was like, okay.
You got to put your money in, lose a ton, and then you develop your sixth sense or your spidey sense. And then you realize, but it's more often it's like, for example, a simple way of me doing, I would say, my own due diligence, right?
Okay, sure.
So if you follow, for example, a project and the project has 100K followers,
Okay.
and when you look at the mutuals, you only have like maybe less than 10 mutuals.
Okay.
And you'd be like, shit, if the project is legit and it has 100K, the people that I know are all like top crypto people.
They should know.
They should know and they should follow as well. But if
Okay.
they're not following, means it's not legit.
Okay.
So it could be just like this kind of like, I would say little details that,
Okay,
that you
okay.
put it in that you could suss them out.
What about like a new person?
Yeah.
Like, what should they do? Because, I again, in this area, there's a lot of people that are investing. Like, you were talking about this place is a bit far out,
Yeah.
but this place is kind of like a Beverly Hills area. Like the international schools are here, and a lot of Western restaurants and stuff like that. So they're like the rent in this area can range from like normal to, Intel pays the rent. So it's 10,000 US a month or something ridiculous. So this area has a lot of, there's, people that are spending money. So how can like the average person that's not connected, like where should they go? Where should they go to look at that?
Yeah, I think the simplest way for you, honestly, to find your community or the people you like is to create an X account and then go and research which blockchain you want to be at.
Okay.
So it could be, for example, we have Bera Chain,
Yeah.
we have Abstract, we have Monarch, we have Avalanche.
Yeah.
There's so many chains out there. But the easiest way is for you to see what kind of vibes you want,
Okay.
purchase some NFTs,
Okay.
get into the community, and then
Okay.
from there discover like what are the vibes that you like.
Okay.
So like every chain, the concept, the lifestyle, the
Okay.
swag is totally different.
Okay.
So you gotta start putting in some money,
Sure,
doing
sure.
in some expenses of buying some NFTs, joining some communities. So if it's gaming, right?
Yeah.
Purchase some gaming NFTs and join together, game nights and
Okay.
get to know one another.
Okay.
If you are talking about DeFi, join some of like the DeFi. I mean, Sui, DeFi on Sui or Aptos is hot, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
just
yeah.
go on to Sui, go on to some of like the DeFi protocol. We have Suiland, all
Okay.
of this where, you just hop into the Discord, you open a profile, you talk to them, instantly
Okay.
you get connected, you get
Okay.
5 friends in an hour, right?
Okay.
So start doing it and then
Okay.
slowly build up from there.
Okay. And so for you, you're balancing all these roles, right? With like the Rug Radio and the PukeCast and traveling and you must be having to outsource some of this stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So how are you able to kind of like balance your lifestyle? There's no balance.
There is no balance
Okay.
in Web3. I mean, team no sleep, right? That's what they say.
Yeah,
But kudos to I'm not doing this alone. So
Yeah.
I have a co-founder that's
Nice.
doing this with me.
Yeah.
I have multiple PA, different group leads
Yeah.
that runs the business and stuff.
Okay.
So it's more towards like I feel like it's a slow step. First off, I would say 3 years ago, it's me only doing the podcast, right?
That's
and
like
then from
hardcore
there,
entrepreneur
And then
style.
after 6 months, I recruited a co-founder to do a podcast together with me.
Beautiful.
And then after that, I recruited 2 more people to do content, to do ghostwriting. And
Okay.
it's just like, slowly
It's a
trying
business.
to...
You're building your business. Okay.
Building your business, right? Getting more income, more hiring, make sure the business is lean, testing out different people,
Mm-hmm.
and slowly scaling the business.
Okay, so do you have like some advice for people that maybe want to be where you are? Some like people that want to be like a Web3 kind of an entrepreneur.
Yeah. I think the easiest way right now is to build a profile. Like,
Okay.
I would say 10 years ago, how people value you is, how good your CV is. Like these days,
Sure.
when I hire, I don't even look at your CV,
Yeah,
right? Because I just
understand.
want to know how capable are you? What is the last thing that you do? And when
Yeah.
I look at your profile, for example, you telling me, hey, this is me, I will see how influential you are. Because if you can grow your personal brand, you
Yeah.
can do anything,
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
And so like, I feel, in the next 5-10 years,
Yeah.
personal brand will be everything.
I think so too,
And
yeah.
so like you gotta double down in. I'm a guy that is camera shy.
Okay.
I'm a
Really?
guy that
Oh, man.
do not like to talk in front of people.
Okay.
But because of the circumstances of
Understand.
like doing spaces, so why I choose spaces is
Okay.
because you don't look at the face.
Okay,
Right?
sure,
It's
sure,
just me
understand.
talking.
Yeah.
And so like I can show whatever kind of like background and stuff like that, but I'm safe behind the cover of spaces.
Okay.
But then after doing it for so long, you realize, okay, if I want to up level, I
Yeah.
gotta show my face. If I
Agree.
want to do more, I gotta
Okay.
do video content. I got to push myself to do more. But start somewhere, do it, and then slowly you find that you're comfortable with one thing. And when you're so comfortable, then it's the time for you to, kind of like do more.
Okay, that's beautiful. And just talk a little bit about your co-founder, right? You got the partnership. I found something where it said the bald duo dynamic. Was that something?
Say again?
I found like a quote that's the bald duo dynamic. Tell me a little about where that came from. Yeah.
Okay, so that was when dude, it was so long ago, man.
Okay, really? Because I found all this stuff.
So those are the times that I was trying to find a co-founder.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not like the first time, you get someone in and then you'd be like, all right, the synergy is good.
Okay,
No,
that's
oftentimes, you find someone in the first few months, it seems good. But after 3 to 4 months, you realize, maybe this is not the guy I want to work with, right?
Understand,
so
yeah.
his name is called Wacky.
Okay.
We
Good
did
name.
this ball duo thing. So he's a white guy
Okay.
living in London, and he's a bald dude.
Okay.
And so I met him, I think 3 years ago during Token 2049 in Singapore.
Gotcha.
And I was like, he has the energy. Let's do something together, right?
Beautiful.
But the business wasn't generating any income because the
Understand.
first 2 years I wasn't charging anything. It's
Yeah.
all for free, right?
Understand.
So we're burning in, day out. But he's a guy which is about, I think, 40 years old now.
Okay.
And so he has a lot of commitments. And so
yeah, I
like,
understand.
for him it's like, all right, if I'm doing this, where is the money coming
Yeah.
in?
Yeah, yeah.
And so for me, those are more towards a Web 2 mentality. In Web 3, like I say, you got to do more stuff. But
Just
you
do
can't
it.
tell a guy that's much older to forego all of his commitment and come into this.
Yeah.
So it was a phase, I would say. It was
Okay,
a
that's
phase, yeah.
funny. Oh, okay, because I found that. I'm like, I'm going to ask that one. That's a good one, yeah. So, last thing. So, how can we sort of encourage? For me, I'm always the guy that's like, all right, let's do it. Let's just try, right? Let's go to Hong Kong. All right, let's go. Let's go to Blockchain Week. Let's do the podcast. Let's do everything, right? So, how can we kind of transition more people from the Web 2 mentality sort of to a Web 3?
Yeah, I think.
What's your advice
Yeah,
on that?
my advice is,
Yeah.
everybody that I'm meeting right now, whether it's my girlfriend, whether it's my friends, I'm always encouraging people to come into Web3.
Yes.
Right? Because there is so much potential in Web3
Yeah.
that, I went around in consensus and I asked people life before and after Web3.
Yeah.
And I asked more than 10 people, not one people say that they regret after
Okay.
coming into Web3. It's
Okay.
always good. Why? Maybe they can travel more. Maybe
Yeah,
they achieve
sure.
financial freedom. They can do so much for their family with the same location and things that they are doing.
Yeah.
So I believe Web3 is still an untapped market.
Okay.
And if you are out there, been struggling, trying to make a living,
Okay.
this is kind of I wouldn't say a lazy hack, but it's
Okay.
still a hack.
It's like a
that
hack to the matrix,
is,
right?
Yeah, it's a hack to a matrix that is still so untapped. If you want to start this 5 years later,
Yeah.
maybe it's so mainstream that
Okay.
it's become another Web2 that is so competitive, right?
Okay,
But
okay.
right now, if you are hearing this, if you are thinking, should I get into Web3, you don't have to lose money. You don't have to buy meme coins. You
Okay.
could just come in creating content similarly to what you're doing in Web 2, but
Yeah.
earning more because of the brand deals that are coming.
Okay,
Right? So,
gotcha.
reach out to a friend, reach out to us, reach out to him. I
Okay.
feel like in Web 3, for example, you came to the event.
It was amazing.
And
I
right
had
now
such a
we're
good
doing
time.
a pod itself,
I
right?
love it. I love
There's
it. I
no
love it. I love
barrier.
it. I love
No
it.
matter
Yeah.
how high and
Yeah.
low,
Yeah.
there's no barrier in Web 3.
Everybody's
because
so
friends is friend.
friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody was so approachable and friendly, and I thought, wow, this is you get it. When you go out and you're like, oh, this is kind of fun. I have to ask one negative-y question.
Okay.
What
Okay.
about again? I've been doing this restaurant for a long time,
Yeah.
and I meet teachers and people with the masters and PhDs, and it's all a scam.
Yeah.
And I sit and I'll debate with them, but then
Yeah.
eventually I'm just I'm not gonna debate with you, man.
Yeah.
So what can we say to these people that are just it's all 99% of it is a scam? What do we say to these guys? What
So-
would you say?
Yeah. So I believe there is scam involved.
Sure, for sure.
But like any other business, in
Yeah.
Web 2 itself, there's scam.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
I mean, you look at the financial system these days, is also controlled by the black
Education
rocks,
system too.
right? Educations.
Yeah.
Everything is a scam. It's
Yeah.
just that whether we normalize the scam or not. So
Okay.
Web 3, people hasn't normalized it yet.
Okay.
And whatever the Web 2 news is reporting, it's always about the big news. Hey, Bitcoin has dropped 20%.
Yeah. Oh.
And so like people only see that.
And then people are, I
But
told
they don't,
you.
but they don't see all of the small wins that has been happening, right?
Okay,
So I
sure.
think like what you said, we don't have to argue. It's just the mindset of people hasn't shifted that yet. But
Okay.
when they realize that they had the wrong mindset, it's probably maybe too late for them.
Okay.
Yeah. So like it's more towards people that is willing to learn. It's more towards, I would say the younger generation or the older generation that say, hey, I like my life, but I feel like I need to have a change.
Yeah.
Or maybe I want to achieve financial freedom, because for the longest time, especially in Asia, we are taught to, you study hard, you get a good job.
Yeah, yeah.
You climb the ladder, you retire, you have kids, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
But I think like the shift is about to happen. Like
Okay.
people like you and me, we realize that, and we've been preaching it through the podcast,
Agreed.
through spaces, through content. This change will happen, and more people realize that we need to do this, the
Okay.
more we could encourage as well.
Okay, that's beautiful, man. I love that. For myself, I have a little girl, and we put her through the local school system, and it's been good. And now she's in junior high, and it's like, wow, it's like a 10 or 12-hour day. So we're kind of like, okay, we got to figure something out. And my wife is Taiwanese, right? So she's just like, that's what we all did. So 12 hours a day of school. I'm like, nah. I feels like they're preparing her for a world that was like 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, and then especially, you go to these consensus events, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's very different now than even when I was a kid, right? So
I think
it's crazy.
Like, for me, like for example, junior high or high school is fine.
Yeah.
But probably not college.
Yeah.
Because like there's so much soft skill you could learn while doing the job, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And
Agree.
those skills were worth more than paying, tens of thousands of dollars for the education system.
Yeah, yeah. I think that in the future, the EQ is going to be a lot higher than, more important than IQ. I've met a lot of people that, they come in for jobs and they've, their master's degree and stuff. And then, okay, let's try them out. And as soon as it gets busy, as soon as a customer's like, hey, what's going on? They just break mentally. And it's crazy. It's crazy. So like my daughter, like maybe her marks are not fantastic because, she's half Taiwanese and half me, right? But like her emotional, she's able to deal with stuff because she grew up in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Her social skills are through the roof. She sees dads and teachers and principals getting shit faced at the bar. So she sees it. She's like, well, these are still people. They're normal people. They had a bad day. They're going to come and have a beer. So she sees that. So I feel like that's more valuable than, the master's degree or whatever. I think, but I don't have a master's degree.
I agree, bro. I do not have a master's degree as well, but I agree,
yes,
man.
all right, brother. Man, we could probably talk all day. I know you want to get your family home, but is there anything you want to end off with? Because I think we covered quite a bit. We could talk all day. I'd love to do it again someday. But
For sure, man. I think like if
Yeah.
the last statement I would say it's get yourself a Twitter profile.
Okay.
Get yourself into a community. Start coming into Web3. You don't have to invest anything, right?
Okay.
It's as easy as just buying a profile picture that these days costs $5 USD, $10 USD, and start learning before you invest. I think like a lot of misconception is like, oh, Web3 is all about scam. I will lose my money.
Sure.
But actually, you could only probably spend 50 USD buying all sorts of NFTs, getting into the community, learning with them, and then without losing any money.
Yeah.
And then just treat it as an investment of you connecting with people.
Okay.
And the easiest way, like you said, go to whatever event that is happening. Like if you're in Malaysia, there's an event. If you're in Thailand, if you're in Vietnam, every year there's so many events happening.
Okay.
Get yourself there, start meeting the people. You will totally realize that, hey, this is a community that's untapped. You have so many friends. People
Okay.
are different. People are more eager to learn compared to, how the Web 2 culture is like.
Okay.
So get your ass in Web3. That's
Okay,
it.
beautiful.
That would say.
Okay, beautiful. And the last thing is, most of the viewers here are from Taiwan.
Yeah.
So obviously in the Asia time zone, obviously. So how can they find you in PukeCast?
Yeah, that's it. Just type PukeCast.
Okay.
You'll
Everywhere.
find everywhere. You'll find our Twitter. You'll find our Instagram. You'll find our TikTok, YouTube,
Okay.
and stuff like that. So
Beautiful,
yeah.
man. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed the food.
Yes.
Salud.
Food is good. Salud.
Yes. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to check out PukeCast. Don't forget to open your eyes, man. Check out Web3. There's some cool stuff happening, man. And yeah, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Yeah. See you later. Bye-bye.